The Thai-Cambodia border conflict, the ceasefire that didn't hold fighting, has erupted once again along the Thailand-Cambodia border, collapsing a ceasefire that was brokered earlier this year with involvement from Malaysia and pressure applied by US President Donald Trump. What was meant to be a pause in a long-running dispute has instead become another chapter in a conflict that refuses to stay buried. Both sides are blaming each other for firing first. Thailand reports that a Thai soldier was killed in cross-border fire, prompting a swift military response that included F-16 airstrikes. Cambodian officials meanwhile say Thai attacks struck civilian areas, causing injuries and deaths among non-combatants. As accusations fly, civilians on both sides of the border are once again fleeing their homes. The ceasefire reached in July was never a final settlement. It was a pressure-built truce, pushed forward through regional diplomacy and reinforced by outside leverage. President Trump reportedly warned of economic and trade consequences if the fighting did not stop, while Malaysia hosted negotiations aimed at cooling tensions. For a time, it worked. Guns fell silent, troops pulled back, but the underlying dispute never disappeared. At the heart of the conflict is a long-standing disagreement over border demarcation, particularly around historically sensitive and strategically valuable areas. Each flare-up carries political weight at home. Neither government wants to appear weak, and once even a single shot is fired, retaliation becomes almost automatic. Thailand's use of airpower marks a serious escalation. Airstrikes send a message not just to Cambodia, but to regional observers. Thailand is willing to act decisively when it believes its sovereignty is threatened. Cambodia's civilian casualty claims, in turn, increase international pressure and raise the risk of broader diplomatic fallout. So what happens next? The most likely outcome is another push for a ceasefire, this time with tighter rules and stronger monitoring. Regional actors, especially within ASEAN, are already moving to contain the violence. No one wants this conflict to spiral into something larger. At the same time, continued skirmishes are very possible, even as talks take place. Past experience shows that negotiations and fighting often happen in parallel, not sequentially. Each side seeks leverage at the table, and that leverage is often built on the battlefield. Humanitarian pressure will also grow. Displacement, civilian casualties, and images from the border could force faster international involvement. The longer the fighting continues, the harder it becomes for leaders to control the narrative. And finally, the collapse of this ceasefire raises a broader question. How effective outside mediation can be when the core dispute remains unresolved? Trump's involvement helped pause the conflict, but it did not end it. Without a durable framework both sides trust, ceasefires remain fragile by design. For now, the border is tense. The ceasefire is broken, and the region waits to see whether diplomacy can regain control, or whether this conflict is preparing to burn hotter than before. The Thai-Cambodia border conflict, the ceasefire that failed fighting, has erupted once again along the Thailand-Cambodia border, collapsing a ceasefire that had been in place since July. The truce, brokered with involvement from Malaysia and pressure from US President Donald Trump, was intended to halt a cycle of clashes that has flared repeatedly for years. Instead, the region is now facing renewed violence and rising civilian fear. Both governments accuse the other of firing first. Thailand says a Thai soldier was killed by cross-border fire, prompting a military response that included F-16 airstrikes. Cambodian officials deny initiating the fighting and claim Thai attacks struck civilian areas, resulting in casualties and displacement. As each side defends its actions, the ceasefire has effectively collapsed. The July ceasefire was never a permanent solution. It was a pressure-driven agreement, reached after regional talks, and reinforced by warnings of diplomatic and economic consequences if fighting continued. President Trump's involvement reportedly included direct pressure aimed at forcing a pause in hostilities. For a time, it worked. But the deeper dispute was left unresolved. At the core of the conflict is a long-standing disagreement over border demarcation, particularly around historically sensitive and strategically important areas. These zones carry national symbolism, military value, and domestic political consequences. When clashes occur, leaders on both sides face intense pressure to respond forcefully. Thailand's decision to use air power represents a significant escalation. Airstrikes are not only tactical moves but political signals, showing resolve and deterrence. Cambodia's reports of civilian casualties increase international scrutiny and raise humanitarian concerns, making de-escalation more urgent but also more complicated. So what happens next? The most likely outcome is another attempt at a ceasefire, possibly with stronger monitoring and clearer enforcement mechanisms. Regional actors, especially within ASEAN, are already pushing to prevent further escalation. Neither country appears to want a full-scale conflict. However, continued skirmishes remain likely even as negotiations resume. Past patterns show that diplomacy and fighting often occur at the same time, not one after the other. Each side seeks leverage, and that leverage is often built through military pressure. Humanitarian conditions will also play a critical role. Civilian displacement, infrastructure damage, and casualty reports could accelerate international involvement and increase pressure on both governments to restrain their forces. The collapse of this ceasefire highlights a broader reality. Outside mediation can pause violence, but it cannot resolve a conflict unless the root causes are addressed. Trump's involvement helped stop the fighting temporarily, but without a durable framework, the peace did not hold. For now, the border remains tense, the ceasefire is broken, and the region is watching closely to see whether diplomacy can regain control or whether the conflict is about to enter a more dangerous